There are moments in parenting that might feel bigger than the moment, not because of what your child was doing, but because of what your body was remembering. Say your child screams and all of a sudden you feel your chest tightening, or they're whining and defiant, and that hits you really hard. Then you become not just irritated, but you feel activated. This isn't you as a parent overreacting. What's happening is that your nervous system is recognizing a state that you had felt before. So it's not about your child's behavior, it's about your body recognizing you being in this state before. And this is why we find that some of our children's patterns trigger old survival patterns in us. So when our children have big emotions, sometimes we get really triggered by it. This podcast episode is going to dive into why that happens a little bit. Your child has a right to have emotions. They're going to have big outbreaks. They're going to have moments where they are dysregulated, just as any adult is. And a lot of times those emotions hit us hard as parents because maybe in our childhood, we weren't allowed to feel safe in those moments or we were punished in those moments. And that's coming out now in feeling uncomfortable in witnessing our children's big emotions. But what's happening is your child's big emotions are not just happening in the present moment. What they're doing is interacting with your stored past experiences. Let's explain this a little bit more tactically. The nervous system doesn't track time the way that we think it does. So it doesn't track time by years, by minutes, but what it does track is patterns, tone, intensity, and energy. So when you hear your child cry in a certain pitch, or they yell, or they whine, or they resist, or they melt down, your body doesn't just hear them, but it recognizes that it's already learned to survive in that state. Your nervous system is asking in those moments, is this safe? Before your brain can ask what's needed here. Remember, our body reacts first before our brain can catch up. And this can happen in a variety of different ways. So for me, for instance, when I hear whining, it is one of my biggest triggers. And what I reflect back in my childhood with what whining meant, it meant punishment. It meant being grounded. It meant things being taken away. It meant not feeling safe in what was happening in that moment or those big feelings that I was feeling. So that's coming out today in my parenting when I feel triggered. My nervous system is responding, hey, this doesn't feel safe. Let's react to it. There's a reason why some tones and phrases hit harder than others. So things like maybe stop in a sharp tone, or that repetition of mom, or maybe defiance when they say, no, I'm not doing that. My 5-year-old did this morning. I'm not eating that waffle. Okay, but I just made you the waffle that you asked for, but I'm not eating it. So in that moment, without nervous system understanding, you can activate your nervous system. Or maybe there's loud crying or whining. Like I just said, whining is one of my biggest triggers. These aren't neutral stimuli in your body. What they are, they're pattern matches. So when you hear those things, say you hear stop in a sharp tone or that whining or that defiance, your body learned that, hey, this is what conflict feels like. This is what tension sounds like. This is what emotional intensity means. So when those things start showing up again in parenting, your body reacts before you can consciously interpret it and consciously use your tools as a parent to break down the situation in a calm manner. So this is simply science, understanding what science is. This is the amygdala detecting threats. Oh, they're whining, threat, right? Faster than the thinking brain can say, oh, I have, which is the prefrontal cortex. Oh, I have this tool that I can use and it's okay. This is actually safe and I'm parenting differently. The amygdala acts first and then the prefrontal cortex acts second. But you're not simply just reacting to your child, you're reacting to what that meaning was that your body assigned to that feeling. And that can come from what happened a long time ago. And this is why we're creating new neural pathways as conscious parents, or creating moments in the day and space in the day to allow nervous system regulation so that our prefrontal cortex has time to catch up in situations like this. There is a concept of the body memory effect. I've read several books to the tune of this. Number one is Your Body Keeps Score. Another one is It Didn't Start With You. These books introduce a concept of having nervous system experiences stored in your body as felt states. So, not just memories, but actual states. And you may not consciously remember moments from your childhood. So, you may not remember, oh, I did this and then I got yelled at. But your body remembers that fear or that tension, that unpredictability of what could happen, or maybe it remembered emotional overwhelm. What I find is that when our children express those big emotions that maybe we expressed as children, our body enters those, oh, shut down, it's time to become irritable, there's urgency here, or, oh, I have to go automatically into control mode and control these big emotions because our body remembers the state of what we felt in those moments as children. I do want to, though, make it clear that it's not about blaming your past or blaming your upbringing, but what it is about is understanding what your current activation is, what is activating you in these moments of big emotions. Your body is not confused, it's just being protective based on old data. And we are interpreting and putting in new data as conscious, regulated mothers of today. So understanding that, hey, when you do feel activated, it's that old state response showing up. What we can do to shift this is shift the frame. Okay. So moving from discipline to maybe something called nervous system containment. So most parenting advice sometimes jumps right to discipline. You have to discipline your child in that moment. Oh, they're whining? Well, you can't give in. They're doing this? Well, you have to do this. This is the old school way of parenting, the old school way of showing up, right? But discipline only works when nervous system is available. Let's just define this a little bit. Discipline is teaching, guiding, correcting behavior. That's how I look at discipline, okay? Containment is regulating the emotional intensity in the moment. So it's a little bit different there. So you can discipline in those moments, but you have to regulate the emotional intensity first. When your child is dysregulated, I find this all the time. When my children are dysregulated, it doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter what I threaten or any of that. It doesn't matter what I do. They will not hear me until they are fully regulated in their own regulated state. So what they don't need, and I talk to my husband about this so much, is because he jumps right to logic. Hey, you did this and this is blah, 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 blah. They don't need logic in that moment. What they need is their nervous system to be regulated first, so then they can hear that logic. Now, we have to let go of timelines when we're doing this, because if a situation, say, happens, I'm recording this at lunchtime. So say a situation happens at lunchtime and my 8-year-old flies off the handle. He has a big emotion about maybe someone wrote in his notebook, which happens often, right? And he has a really big emotion about that. I have to let him figure out regulation and regulate with him alongside him, right? So co-regulation before I can have that conversation. And he may not be ready to have a conversation about what was going on until several hours later. He may be ready a couple minutes later, but he may not be ready for a couple hours or even like later in the day. Sometimes I have conversations with my children and they say, Mommy, can we just talk about this at bedtime? Because it's a nice, calm, regulated, neutral state, and they feel really safe in that moment at bedtime to have conversations about what happened during the day. So they don't need that logic first. They need that nervous system support first. When you're activated as a mother, you cannot access effective discipline. You need to regulate first. We have to contain and regulate our emotional intensity in that moment before we can make the correction. Examples of this containment may be lowering your voice or slowing down your body or creating a sense of steadiness. Maybe it's saying less, not more. Sometimes you just need to be with the moment and allow it to pass through you. These are examples of containment. And this doesn't mean that you're not handling the situation correctly. What it means is that you're regulating your nervous system first, and then you are going to handle the situation with the nervous system support, with the nervous system back online. Like I was just saying, a lot of parents may fear if I pause, I'm ignoring my child, or if I step away, I'm abandoning them. There is a difference between abandoning them and regulating before responding. I used to be in a state of motherhood where I would react immediately because that's what I was taught. That's what my nervous system knew, to react immediately. Over the last several years, I've retrained my nervous system to pause before reacting. And in moments where there's high intensity, I know that I sometimes need to step away. And that doesn't mean that I'm abandoning my children in that moment. What it means is that I'm putting myself and my regulation first so that I can come back and be respectful and be a regulated parent and show my children what true regulation looks like. It's about regulating before you respond to a situation. A regulated pause can protect a relationship or it prevents escalation. It also allows you to access your adult self because we're the adults in this situation. The children aren't. They're supposed to feel, they're supposed to show up and express themselves and feel safe in expressing their big emotions and sharing their vulnerabilities with us. It's our job as parents to be able to give them the space to do that, to give them the space to question and ask questions and to show them what that looks like. It's our job to do that. So when we pause and we come from a regulated pause, we access the adult state a little bit easier, right? We're not reacting based on old patterns. What we're reacting on is our adult state and our regulated nervous system. In these moments, if you are feeling like you're abandoning your child, just say, just give me a moment. I just need a second and I'll come back to you. That's demonstrating to your children that, hey, I know I'm dysregulated. I need to regulate myself. And then when I am ready, I will come back. There's no harm in telling them that. I'm going to take a breath and then I'll come back and help you. These are statements that you can say that allow you to regulate yourself as a parent, but also still show up as the adult and still be the leader in that relationship. A pause is not a disconnect. It's what makes the connection possible at the end of the day. You're allowed then to come back and really have a true conversation, not one that's activated, but one that's really rooted in that need for repair and connection. Now, you're not automatically just going to start feeling calm in every hard moment that shows up. Nervous system work takes a long time. That's not the goal. The goal is not to feel calm in every single moment. What we're looking to do is increase our tolerance in our nervous system. So your nervous system has a window of capacity. When a child's emotions exceed in that window, that's when our activation happens. The work is never about not getting triggered. What the work is slowly expanding what you can stay present for. It's expanding our capacity. Expanding our window. Examples of this is maybe you can stay 5-10% more regulated than before. Maybe you recover faster after there's an activation. Maybe you notice the activation happening sooner. Tolerance expands slowly. It's not an overnight success. It happens slowly, not through force, but through safety. So it's finding those little ways of being 1% better in every single moment, which creates a compound effect over time. So one day you may look at this similar to maybe my story. One day you may wake up and say, wow, this situation, if this happened 2 years ago, I would have been so activated. But this morning, the exact same situation happened and I was regulated. Again, it didn't happen overnight. It happened through years of nervous system work, of years of understanding what my triggers are, of years of looking at what the activation truly looks like and creating those new neural pathways. And maybe showing up those neural pathways in the amygdala to say that this is safe, this is okay. This is not, I'm not being chased by a bear. It's okay, I can feel safe in this moment. I don't have to feel activated. Just as change happens over time, change doesn't happen when you're activated. It happens after. So after your system can feel calm again, that's when the change happens. There's a simple 3-step ritual that I've been following over the last several years, and I'd like to share it with you. It's a little micro integration to help with maybe that post-trigger response and reflection to understand what's really going on in those moments of activation. Number 1 is notice. Notice what happened here. What activated me right there? That's an internal question. What was I activated with? Second, you're going to name the body response. Okay, I feel a tight chest. I feel urgency. My heartbeat is fast. Whatever the body response is. And number three, and this is important and key, you're going to separate the past from the present. This felt familiar, but this moment is different. And understanding the past is different from what's going on. And while you're doing this, you can place a hand on your body while reflecting. And this really does signal safety in your body and your nervous system. Awareness after the moment is what truly builds that capacity for the next activation. And that's what changes those neural pathways and updates our amygdala and our nervous system to feel safe in these moments of activation. So truly, your child's behaviors are not the problem. The activation is not failure, it's a nervous system interaction. And it's not a parenting flaw in any way. You're not broken. You're not doing it wrong. What you're doing is you're working with patterns that were wired in you long before this moment happened. At the end of the day, it's not about behavior, it's about activation. And when you can really truly begin to understand, that's when we start to see a true shift in nervous system. If this episode resonated with you as a parent, as a mother, this is exactly the work we go deeper inside the capacity reset. So awareness is step one, but embodiment is what actually changes the moments that we feel. You didn't fail to stay calm. Calm wasn't available, and we don't build through pressure. We build through safety. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I would love to hear what resonated most from you. So please leave a comment and let me know what really feels safe for you in this moment. And we'll see you in the next episode.